NCAA football today from Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Nebraska.
You are looking live at the Schooner Pod from all of our individual apartments. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. With me today, we got Jameson, we got Ty, and we are here to break down OU versus Nebraska in the only way we know how, as corny as possible, with as much love for the 70s as we can. Guys, I don't even kind of want to talk about West Carolina. I know we do, but this moment we've kind of been waiting for a while, OU and Nebraska back together on our own field. How excited are you, Jameson?
It's going to be great. You know, the one thing being an 11 o'clock, of course, that just takes away from so much of what it could have been. If we could have had it the same time as West Virginia, that we give it to 6:30, that'd be absolutely beautiful. But it's going to be crazy either way. I feel like the vibe, even though it was cool to see the full stadium in Western Carolina and how we striped it in an interesting way, was neat and unique. But the vibes at this game will be the true feel Oklahoma football.
Absolutely. This is going to feel like normal for sure. Like that standard big game that we haven't had truly since, I can't remember the last time we've had a feeling like this. Ohio State, I suppose, in 2016. I'm just guessing.
Oh,
but
goodness. That was a really weird day, though, because it was raining so much, you know?
There was that like massive downpour, the delay, and OU got off to just an awful start. But, you know, I'm excited for it. It's a massive game. Ty, are you hyped? Tell me.
I am.
Tell me your feelings.
Quick show note. I have a home, not recording from an apartment. Not trying to flex. I know it's a sore subject for some.
Hey, I'm trying. In 2 weeks, I'll be broadcasting from a home.
But yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very excited for how we performed last week. I think that's the bare minimum of how a team that's at the level that we're allegedly at should perform against a team like that. Obviously, there's some sportsmanship arguments here and there, which I think are fair. But I'm super excited for Nebraska. I don't think it's going to get as much hype as it deserves just because we know that Nebraska is atrocious, which is very disappointing because when we scheduled this, we were expecting, that they would be at least, a decent ranked team. I don't think we were expecting a top 10, top 5 matchup. And I think we were hoping they'd at least be like others receiving votes, or if not like, in the 20s.
I mean, this game was scheduled right after Nebraska left in 2012. So let's be honest, this was scheduled when Ndamukong Suh was there. Bo Pelini was going 9-3 every year, which apparently was an issue because he got fired. Boy, I guarantee you they would wish they had that back. So
that's your floor.
Well, and then when Scott Frost got hired, it was like, oh, well, maybe this thing will get turned around, and it just never did. So this game did have a lot of potential, did have a lot of hype, but the Huskers haven't held up their end of the bargain. I don't think you can blame OU for that. But before we really do a deep dive on this, let's take care of some business, talk about Western Carolina. Not a lot to really gather from it because this was one of the most lopsided OU games I've ever seen. 76-0. The worst loss OU has doled out to a team since 77-0 in 2003 against Texas A&M. So I don't know how much which is incredible.
It's so much sweeter when it's A&M.
I know. I don't know how much there is to glean from it. So we'll brush through it. Just general impressions, then maybe hand out a game ball or two. Jameson, your impression of the game. What if anything have you taken from it?
Yeah, I feel like we just finally executed in what we wanted to do in week 1, and we went out there and did. There's still some things I was concerned about, and I'll get into it, but I like the way Eric Gray was running the ball. He looked like he was hitting his gaps when they're obviously a lot bigger versus this team. It's a lot easier. So he looked good. Kennedy looked the same. But I will say this about Spencer. I understand 5 touchdowns in the first half. First quarterback to do that since Jason White in that same Texas A&M game. Let's get one more little Texas A&M jab. First quarterback. There's only 2 OU quarterbacks in OU history to do that. So pretty cool. But there was one play on the goal line going towards the south end zone in the first half where Mike Woods was wide open, nobody guarding him at all on the side, not a cornerback, and he doesn't even look at him. And this was in the pre-snap he was not guarding, and then all throughout the play. And that's one thing I've noticed about Rattler is he sometimes kind of locks in on these guys, and especially we've seen that with Jaden Hazelwood throws, where I'm throwing it to this guy and it's going to happen. He's going to go get it. He's not diagnosing the play as much as I'd like. And plus there's a couple things with his arm that makes me a little worried too. He's not popping off the page for me, guys.
Yeah, I get that. And I know that exact play you're talking about because Woods was open for quite a while. This wasn't like a snap decision, just missed him. My guy was hand waving. Nobody came over. Those reads have to get better, and I don't know if that comes with more comfort. At this point, we kind of thought he'd be there with the offense. I just don't. He's just not there yet. I don't know if that's something that will ever come. But we have a long season to go, so hopefully he can get better with it. Maybe he's just trying to not mess up. But again, it's Western Carolina. Ty, what did you glean from this game?
Yeah, not like you guys said. Not a whole lot because when you're. And I'm not trying to say this in like a disrespectful way towards Western Carolina, but when you're essentially playing against air at some point, it's really easy for things to go right. At 26 attempts, our quarterback had almost 250 yards and 5 touchdowns, which that's like absurd for 20 completed passes. Like that's crazy. Both of our main 2 running backs, Eric Gray and Kennedy Brooks, both had less than 10 carries apiece, which is good because, again, that load management of the runners, like I talked about, wanting to see our pass run spread on the plays was a little bit more even, but design runs for our main running backs were a little lower, which is something that we'd been talking about, expected to see and like to see. And other than that, hopefully this is a good confidence builder, and then we can use Nebraska as another really big. This is what I'm hoping. It's a really big confidence builder for this team because it's a Power 5, a big team, a traditional rival, but still not a very good team. So hopefully, I think big picture, we had our shock week 1 that's not an L in the books, and then we're just going to start at the easiest and crank up the difficulties we go through the season. So that's my hope for this game, that this is stepping stone 1 for this team. Yeah,
I think it definitely got us in the right direction. And, if it didn't, that's a huge problem, obviously. But, I think the thing to me that was the most notable thing, OU looked focused all the way through. It was complete. They didn't need to be that complete against Western Carolina, but you could tell that it was drilled into them all week long after that Tulane debacle to drive a team into the ground like that and to really take care of business and finish the job. And, hopefully they didn't just do it against Western Carolina and not, won't do it again this season. Hopefully this wasn't just a one-off thing. But it was just a complete effort, a consistent effort. And I really liked the way the guys were flying around. Obviously, for me, the highlight of the game, because this is one of those things where we were supposed to beat this team. It was supposed to be a bloodbath. But the highlight of the game to me was Ethan Downs, that just remarkable tackle on his end, the energy from him, lifelong Sooner fan, growing up in Weatherford. Just such a cool moment, and it makes you realize, some of these guys, how much it means to them, and it makes you kind of want everyone to play like that. And I hope that something like that can, really inspire some of these guys to really, step it up, get that love of the game. And, every time they get on that field, that's an opportunity to play for OU. And if everyone had the energy that Ethan Downs had in that one play, this is a national championship level team.
Yeah, no, Ethan Downs was one of the bright moments. And another guy was Danny Stutzman. But unfortunately, if anyone was wondering what's going on with his injury, I've been looking at it and watching the replay pretty closely. I'm pretty nervous there's like a fracture in his upper forearm or in his elbow area, and I don't think we're going to see him for a while. I doubt that. There's probably a good chance he's shut down for the rest of the season. And that's a bummer because he led the team in tackles, I believe. He was really impressive. And I'm really proud of a true freshman coming in at that linebacker position, making his way to the backup at second string and playing hard. They were talking about him in the press conferences last week as he's just a psycho. Like, he does not care. He just runs and goes. And that's a guy that you love in this Grinch defense, a guy that Odom would love. And now he's going to be out for the rest of the year. Luckily it's, fractures are a little bit better than him tearing his Achilles or knee, but I don't think he's coming back this season. I just kind of had to put my little injury stamp on this pod.
Yeah, and it's necessary to do that. And it's a bummer because, like you said, a lot of he's kind of crazy. I believe Perion Winfrey said he's a little, I can't remember the term he used. It was something like cuckoo in the head or had a screw loose or something. And Perion Winfrey saying that, this guy, you got to be a little nuts for that, which I love. But, hopefully it's not as bad as it looks and he can get back out there and continue to be a psychopath on the field, which I love. But yeah, let's wrap this up. We'll just do quick game ball. Ty, first, or who is your game ball and why?
Just one for the whole team.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so mine, going unconventional here. Mine is for Lincoln Riley because ultimately going 76-0 against someone is something that is completely within the head coach's control. And I never would have thought that he had it in his heart to keep on the gas against especially a team like this and just absolutely run them into the ground and continue scoring to the end and continue holding them into the end. So hopefully we have broken a seal here and he will carry that into the rest of his coaching career because, knock on wood, but I think it's reasonable to assume that we're going to have Riley with us longer than we're going to have anyone that's playing on this team right now. So the lessons learned from the individual players here are important for this season, but if we can get a coach, specifically Lincoln Riley, to knock that whole, we're going to relax in the second quarter or we're going to coast because we're up thing, that's going to be super, super significant for OU going forward. So he's my game ball.
Yeah, I get that. And, I love what Alex Grinch was talking about after the game where he told the defense, like, you're running laps if you let him score a single point, like just really like digging in on the defense to really have a complete game, even though they are, no offense to them, they were completely outmatched. And honestly, these games shouldn't even be played. It's a farce. But at the same time, they went 100% through, and shout out to the coaching staff for actually getting them to do that. Jameson, who's your game ball and why?
I'm a little torn. At first, whenever we're thinking offense, defense, I wanted to give a shout out to Mario Williams because he's going to be a legitimate force on this offense for the rest of the season. He is, touchdown each game? So he's looking like he's going to be a favorite target Rattler. But I think that Bryson Washington should get the game ball, recovered a fumble, got his first interception, and that was Grinch's guy at safety. I understand that the safety position, it requires, a lot to get above Delaren Turner and Patrick Fields, but that was just still good for him. So, this game really doesn't matter in the big scheme of things, aside from the injuries that happened, which I want to hit on a couple of the other ones before we move on to. But yeah, I'll give it to Bryson Washington.
Fair enough. I like that. I like that pick a lot. Very solid performance from him, for sure. I don't want to give it to Burkich, but he had my favorite play of the game because of that boot. I just had to mention it. Honorable mention goes to Ralph Rucker for going 2 for 2 for 20 yards. I'm just happy our boy Ralph got in there. But look, if I had to go with someone, I'd go with Eric Gray for a very solid bounce back game. He looked the part. It's Western Carolina, so it doesn't really count. But he was the guy I left that game going like, oh, okay, that's Eric Gray. I get it, So I really liked Gray. I'm going to give him the game ball. But yeah, it's just kind of a tough call there for sure. In general. Also shout out Danny Stutzman for the 8 tackles. But before we go, entering OU Nebraska, Jameson, give us your. We need a name for this segment. The Dr. Dirty's Corner or something. I don't know.
Don't curse me with the doctor yet. Talk to me in 2 years.
Okay, you're right. Potentially Dr. Nerdy's corner.
Yeah, but seriously, I think that it's really important for people to hear this and to know that, I mean, if you're subscribed to like donor boards somewhere, you're going to see these reports, but kind of know the prognosis and like when these guys are going to return on our defense, because our secondary took a huge hit. Billy Bowman with a hamstring injury, that is a thing that lingers. Anything in a defensive back or wide receiver that is a groin or a hamstring, you've got to be extremely careful because they re-pull it rather than not. So I would not be surprised if Billy Bowman's out for 2 weeks at least, these next two, and then maybe even up to 4 weeks, just being extremely cautious, just depending on how, much they want a baby in. So this is a serious thing, even though it was a little pull, you say, oh, he just pulled his hamstring, he's fine. No, this is serious, so he's going to be out for longer than we think in my impression. Also, Woody Washington's also dealing with another, kind of a muscle injury in his leg as well. So it's going to be a similar thing. I don't know exactly if it is a hamstring or not. I didn't see anything that happened, but if it's like a calf, it's not as bad as a hamstring, but they're still going to be careful with it. And I would expect him not to play again this week. Latrell McCutcheon got the starting job at cornerback, so him playing decent was really important. And, DJ Graham's got to step up because he hasn't had a good start of the year. But these cornerbacks in the nickelback position too, good thing we at least have some depth.
Yeah, definitely. It's a group that needs to be, obviously as good as we want it to be, because it is a weaker spot. But this type of rash of injuries would have just decimated the Sooners in previous years. So it's something to be very thankful for, that we actually have good depth there, I would say. All right, on to the Nebraska Cornhuskers, who have fallen on, in case you've been living under a rock or have just woken up from a coma, for the past 30 years. They're not doing so hot, folks.
Boy, I can't wait to see my favorite number one team.
I wonder if Tom Osborne has won his 10th championship yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're bad. They're bad, folks. And sure, they rebounded from their embarrassing opening loss to Illinois, which gets worse and worse by the week. But those two wins were against Fordham and Buffalo. So they beat two teams from New York, which not exactly a college football hotbed. And they roll into Norman, first time since 2008. Looking to play the spoiler here. So this is a game with a lot of tradition, a lot of history. I'm excited to see it, but Ty, your thoughts on the Huskers. Do you think they pose any sort of threat here?
So I honestly think that they do, just because, everything we just said about OU. I still do not have 100% faith in Riley's ability to motivate a team for a game where someone's going to be coming in and giving you their best shot. I think Scott Frost is arguably even worse at that. But he does have it in him. So I'm not super worried about Nebraska, but nothing would surprise me at this point. But I'm excited to see our boy Adrian Martinez out on the field, just playing atrociously at quarterback.
So I will say Martinez, I think, is the one guy that makes me like slightly nervous, and that's just due to the old fear of dual threat quarterbacks. This guy isn't exactly great throwing the ball. He's not his brother Taylor, but he still can get it done on both ways. And I don't know. It just gives me the heebie-jeebies seeing a guy who can run and pass. Jameson, are you what? How nervous are you for this game, if at all?
I mean, I'm not nervous. I don't think it's going to be perfect. I still think OU has a lot of things to work on. And like I said, I think the secondary being shorthanded across the board is definitely going to hurt them as well. Adrian Martinez, he hasn't thrown an interception yet this year. So let that better change, first of all. And I think the biggest key is, yes, he is a dual threat and he's been running the ball well this season. We need pressure on him, and we need to be having a day. Nick Benito needs to be a force. This is going to be a well-televised game that a lot of people are going to be watching. Nick Benito needs to come out and put his name further so on the map as a first-round pick. And I think if we can get enough pressure on him, get him a little bit, he's a guy that he doesn't deal with pressure while he rolls out in the pocket. He, kind of gets flustered really easy. We need to get him flustered and quick and not making, those short little dink passes.
Yeah, and that's what the key of this game is it's pressure. Nebraska's offensive line is honestly not very good at all. They have struggled this season so far. And honestly, that's the key for OU. Making him feel that pressure, forcing him into mistakes, making that atmosphere really snowball into something that Nebraska really struggles with. So, guys like, Benito, Isaiah Thomas, of course, and Perion Winfrey, they're going to need to make their presence felt early. And really just overwhelm the Huskers into a situation where, they don't have any momentum. They don't get that, rivalry, thing. They don't start to believe. That's the biggest thing. Crush the hopes early and just keep pouring it on. And I think it's necessary that they do, because if you look at OU's schedule, this is one of the poorest strengths of schedules I've seen out of an OU team in a long time. So Nebraska ain't going to cut it. Let's just get that straight. But what might cut it is like a 70 level, beatdown, hanging 70, hanging 60 on the Huskers. That is something OU has to strive for. I think they have it in them. Do I think it'll happen? I don't know. Maybe Nebraska might have just a shred of pride left in them. But I don't know. We'll find out. I'm really excited to see how it pans out. But again, it's going to have to be about not giving them a shred of hope, pounding them with pressure, and forcing mistakes, which I believe can happen. Nebraska in their is winless in their previous 3 trips to Norman, starting with that 2000 game that was quite excellent. Restarted the Sooners, and then you have 2004, the effing Hillbillies game, and 08 where Sam Bradford just murdered them. So good times in good times on Owen Field this millennium for sure. And speaking of which, I want to talk about, with Nebraska, you kind of have to talk about the past because that's the only thing interesting about them. Ty, I don't know how far or how close you followed the OU-Nebraska rivalry, because we're both kind of young. We're all kind of young. Didn't remember the prime of it, but what do you remember kind of learning most about Nebraska in terms of the rivalry? What's your favorite kind of takeaway from all of it?
So my favorite OU-Nebraska moment, like you touched on, being 20. I'm 25. I wasn't really. I was alive and very much remember when we played Nebraska when they were still in the Big 12, but I don't necessarily remember it being a rivalry then, just because they were sort of on the downhill and we were very in the up at that point. But for sure, my favorite OU-Nebraska moment is that infamous clip from I believe it's the 70s, when OU and Nebraska play the game of the century game. There's been a couple OU-Nebraska games of the centuries on the regular season, and Nebraska just barely ekes out a win. And then the Orange Bowl committee calls Oklahoma and tells them that they're going to be playing Nebraska, and the Oklahoma boardroom is up cheering and everything else. And then it cuts to the Nebraska boardroom, and they call the Nebraska guys and they go, "Hey, so your opponent's going to be Oklahoma," and there's just stone-faced, dead silence in the Nebraska boardroom. And then OU went on and won in the.
Did we? I'm pretty sure we lost. I'm pretty sure we lost the game of the century.
We lost the regular season, the game of the century one. We beat them in the bowl game.
This is like game of the century 2 or 3 at this point. That's
I mean, there's a couple that get referred to as game of the century, and they're all around the same time period.
The one Ty's referring to is the 1978 game where Billy Sims, he was on the 5, fumbled the ball at Nebraska to keep the. It was going to keep the undefeated record going. Fumbled at the 5. Nebraska recovers to give OU its only loss of the season, and then in that Orange Bowl rematch, the only time I believe OU Nebraska, had rematched in a bowl game or anything. OU got the revenge. We're one of the few teams to beat everyone on their schedule. Kind of got robbed of a national title, if you ask me, but it's fine. You can nitpick a lot of things in the pre-BCS era, but no, I mean that is an all-timer, and what really punctuates it is there. Tom Osborne waits so long to give a response, it goes dead silent, and the Orange Bowl committee guy has to be like, "Hey, is anyone there?" Just all of this is on camera. It's beautiful. I love it. But anyways, Jameson, your favorite OU Nebraska memory?
Yeah, see, like he said, this is beyond our part, but growing up and trying to understand it, when everyone around you is talking about it and watching like the old Sooner Magic tapes and the DVD set and everything. Yeah, the original game of the century in 1971 where Nebraska came to Oklahoma and beat us, that one they definitely pick hard. But after that, we go on and we win 6 straight games versus them for the next year throughout the 70s, or we have a pretty good dynasty there. But the most recent one is whenever we think of it is the Big 12 championship in 2010 in Arlington, a game where we kind of were like, oh, this is really cool. We're playing Nebraska. They kind of been decent recently, but they're not obviously what it used to be. This rivalry, it's not how we feel right now. It was a little bit more higher end because that was a good team and it was a Big 12 championship game, and they got it really close. And like that 2010 Nebraska team had a lot of really good players on it, and we only won by 3 points. And that's obviously for the younger people. That's what I remember the most.
Yeah, it was a massive comeback. I believe the Huskers went up either 21-0 or 14-0, and the Sooners stormed back to take that one, which was huge. And it was Nebraska's last ever Big 12 game in general, in fact. So we sent them off packing in honestly the best send off possible. I would say for that rivalry, and for me it goes deep. I've been to a game in Lincoln, the last one in Lincoln, but the last one in Norman. Truly remarkable people, the friendliest people you'll ever find on any college football campus. And the how much they revere that rivalry and how much they respect OU, and what has happened over the years. This shared tradition, it's truly special, and I'm looking forward to Nebraska coming back. But for me, it has to be the pair of games in 2000 and 2001. To me, those were the two games that really kind of made me an OU fan. In 2000, I was like a kid, and my dad wouldn't let me go because I was too young, and he didn't want me to get wrapped up in all the madness, which totally makes sense. And missing out on that incredible moment got me so upset. I'm like, I never want to miss another OU home game as long as I live. And then that next year in 2001, which it's kind of the perfect OU blend of the great moments and the bad. That Eric Crouch, I don't know if y'all remember this. Eric Crouch reverse touchdown, just pitched it back. Someone threw it to Crouch. First OU loss since 1999 for OU. First one I ever remember seeing. Broke my heart. Truly, like one of those defining moments that you realize I care about this way too much. I think I cried. I was like 6. And it gave me my first ever sports heartbreak. So Nebraska on two ends of the spectrum gave me some of my earliest, biggest memories of OU football for sure. So I have a lot of respect for the Huskers. I can't wait to see the cue ball white helmets and all that back on Owen Field. It is a special, special rivalry, and I can't wait to go back up to Lincoln next year. It is truly special, and just soak it up. It doesn't happen often. We're getting another home and home later this decade, as long as the Alliance doesn't bonk it or anything. But these things are special. We've lost it before, and hopefully OU and Nebraska aren't strangers. But I, for one, am fired up. This is as big, if not bigger, than Ohio State to me, just in terms of the culture, in terms of what Owen Field will be like. I truly can't wait. But that's enough blathering on about history and the past. I can't wait to go. Ty, you're muted.
I was going to say that's about all there is for this game. I mean, the current Nebraska is so disappointing that remembering the good old days that we didn't even witness is the best we can do for this one, really.
For sure. For sure. People forget Tom Osborne got his ass kicked by Switzer, by the way. He was not very good until Switzer retired, and then he murdered us in the 90s. So when we win by 70, don't feel bad for them because they did it to us on Owen Field one time. But all right, that's all we have for OU Nebraska, I think, in terms of previews. Jameson, do you happen to have any Cruton Corner in your bag for us?
Oh, I do. But before we go on, I want to put it out that Taylor Martinez and Adrian Martinez are not related. Even though that was the last time we played them, they were the quarterback. It was just worth thinking about that because recently ESPN has called Adrian Martinez Taylor Martinez online. They made a big deal about it, but they are not related. They're not really, even though it's really cool that, we played a Martinez and quarterback last time we went.
Okay. My Nebraska friend told me they were. So I believe, Austin, this one's on you, buddy.
ESPN noted last name publication.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. No, this is bad. Oh, God. Well, okay,
I'm looking on. Yeah, they due to their last name sports background, people think that Taylor Martinez's brother is Adrian Martinez. However, the truth is they are not at all related to each other.
Oh, my God.
And they don't even look even similar in the slightest.
Hey, man, they run fast and throw ball.
That's maybe why we thought that Adrian. Adrian Martinez has been here for a long time.
Oh yeah,
but maybe that's just because we've been tricking our brain to think.
It's the Mandela effect, I guess. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we done screwed up, but hey, if ESPN can screw up, we can too, I guess. All right,
but we called it. Yeah, hit me with the recruiting corner right here.
David.
Yes?
What is this, David?
This is a
Cruton Corner with Jamison.
Everybody dancing.
Oh, that's nice.
All right, let's just talk about something that's not pertinent news and recruiting. I'm not dropping any new. I don't drop any information. I just relay it. But let's just talk about this because I think this is a really cool talking point. USC, Clay Helton, big time news in college football right now. Who is probably top 2 or top 3 guy in OU recruiting this year that we want the most is Gentry Williams, a D-back out of Tulsa, who is deciding between us and USC. Even though Clay Helton's been on the hot seat for a long time, I'm sure that this news is very, very key in helping him decide, do I want to go with a brand new coaching staff or do I want to go to OU? I mean, what do you think about that, Bobby?
I mean, it has to be huge. Anytime you are talking to a staff and, all of your contacts, even in this case, where they are staying through the rest of the season, you have interim guys still there. Knowing that they might not be there, that hurts. And I think it hurts on the recruiter's end because it's hard to recruit for a program that you might get fired from at the end of the year. And on the kids' end, it hurts because, those contacts, they might not be there at the end of the year. With that being said, USC now, I feel like, has the chance to get better. I've always thought Clay Helton was a joke, a horrible head coach. But with that being said, there's a lot of uncertainty. However, USC is the type of program where kids will flock to the interlocking SC, the Cardinal and Gold, Los Angeles, all of that is a big enough selling point to overcome some stuff. But at the same time, in terms of if it truly is a close race between OU and USC, you have to like the guys who are actually there and not getting fired.
Yes, absolutely. And so I think this is great news for us. Watching our opponents in recruiting do bad, that's on one side. And then the other side, Texas A&M had a horrible, horrible game, almost lost to former Big 12 opponent in Colorado and pulled out a win at the end. Does not help at all that Heinous King – I always pronounce his name. Now I just think about it. I pronounce it as heinous, so I'm going to keep it like that. It just sounds like anus. So Heinous King. I'm sure it's like Haynes.
Or just like the word heinous, which is like a diabolical thing. That's kind of badass.
Well, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it like that. With him going down, that's just not good for Texas A&M for the rest of the year. And we're come down to 2 with Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, one of the best interior defensive linemen in the country. And we are currently the favorite. And if Texas A&M is going to continue to look kind of bad, it's only going to help OU's case. He was at the Western Carolina game. And from what the notes are saying, everything's been going great. Everyone was very impressed. It looks like, obviously whenever you show out versus a team that you're supposed to and you could put on a show, it was good. And there's a lot of – did you see the Pancake Hunter photo shoot too with him throwing up all the pancakes?
It's beautiful. It truly is. Like the photo shoot things are always great, but making pancakes intentionally as a prop is next level stuff. It made me so happy to see.
You know that there is some like 20-year-old intern that they've hired recently to bring on that gets paid nothing. They're like, all right, intern, I need you to make about 40, 50, maybe even 100 pancakes this morning. So just get to work. And that was his job, just to make a recruit happy and have a cool photo shoot, which was really cool. And that's a guy, Demetrius Hunter, is an offensive center from Texas, one of the best centers, if not the best center in this recruiting class. That is extremely solid to Oklahoma, and he's the type of guy that I would never even doubt would lose us. And that's the kind of stops that we're pulling out for a guy like him. So you can only imagine what's going on behind the scenes for guys like, Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, who's between us and A&M, that would change, like it would be a next Gerald McCoy kind of force on that D-line moving forward. And he also, another huge guy that we had in town was another 5-star, and that was an offensive lineman, Devon Campbell. He's kind of down in between us and some Texas schools, and we've been kind of coming strong with him. He has a really good relationship with Bill Beatenbow. So I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to the end with him and we get really close. So we're kind of in, even though that this 2022 class has had its decommitments at wide receiver. As long as we can fill out at the non-wide receiver position, OU is going to do just fine at that one. And if we get some good defensive linemen and good offensive linemen and defensive backs as well, that is a stellar recruiting class.
Absolutely. No, that sounds good. And, I will say, as much as I love the Pancake Hunter photo shoot, they looked like some garbage pancakes.
They look horrible. Horrible.
They're prop pancakes. They're supposed to look bad. It's totally fine. At least we know they weren't wasted. So that's a plus. Well, Jameson, thanks for the Cruden Quarter, man. Appreciate it.
For sure, man.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all we have for today. Ty, I will let you do your final thoughts. Just whatever you want, go for it.
Yeah, I just shout out to any team that OU is scheduling in the future. Please don't be trash when it comes time to hold up your end of the bargain. Like, it's just very disappointing to schedule a team, because now I'm looking forward at all the teams that we have scheduled in the future, and I'm like, how atrocious is Clemson going to be literally like 50 years from now, because we have like a home and home schedule with them in like the 2040s, literally, which is absurd. I know it's not 50 years, but pretty much. So yeah, please stay relevant.
Yeah, please just don't BS. So we have, something to get excited for. And Nebraska, we have you coming up again. Get better. Let's at least be excited for one of these matchups in like 2028, whenever you come back. Be good, at least decent. Just not. Don't lose to Illinois and stuff like that.
Oh no, we're completely cursing ourselves here.
The bar is at the floor. I don't care. It's Nebraska. If we lose to Nebraska, we disband the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. I guess we're going to talk about this a little bit more in our Pick'em podcast, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But I really want to get Ty's thoughts on what would Matt Campbell be like at USC as their head coach.
He'd be an assistant.
Talk about that there.
Oh, okay. He wouldn't be the head coach. He'd be an assistant for Art Briles.
Oh no! All right, that's where we're ending this thing. All right, folks. Thank y'all so much for listening to the Schooner Pod, presented by the Pigskin Podcast Network. I would like to thank Jameson and Ty for showing up as always and doing an excellent job podcasting as well. And of course, I got to give a shout out to my guy Michael Whitman. You know him from such incredible stuff as the Schooner Simulation, but he also produced our incredible intro. Just awesome stuff. Thank you, Michael. So, all right, folks, OU Nebraska, soak it up. It's going to be exciting. If you're listening to this live, right after this, we have the weekend spread. If you're listening to this on record, just listen. Look for that on in your inbox on Thursday. So, all right, folks. For me, Jameson and Ty, this has been the Schooner Pod. We will see you next time where we talk about OU's upcoming game with West Virginia. Shout out to the night game, finally. Have a good one. Boomer Sooner. Beat the Huskers.